This is Jack Yeager, and today we're going to talk a little bit about product and business level strategies. First, I want to get you kind of comfortable with the idea of what a strategy is and why we use them. If you think about any sort of competitive endeavor, so that can be sports or some game you like to play, or in this case, business, there's always some goal or objective. In business, you want to be the most profitable or the most recognized, most liked, all of those maybe. And strategies are your high level description of how you plan to get to those goals or objectives. And so in football, obviously the goal is to win the game, have more points than somebody else. And your strategy for a particular game with a particular opponent might be that you're going to do that because your defense is going to be very good and you're going to keep them from scoring, and your offense just has to score a little bit. Or it may be we need to go out there and score lots and lots of points, and because they have a very good offense, we're not going to slow them down, so we have to score lots of points. So that would be a strategy. You have those sorts of things in business as well, and we'll talk about those. The benefit of a strategy, as in a game, the strategy tells you, okay, well, we need to be very aggressive with our play calling, for example, on offense, and we just need to kind of play the prevent, slow them down defense, and hope they make a mistake. Same thing happens in business. The strategies are what help you decide what plays to call when. And so when you're making those day-to-day decisions or executing on those decisions, they are, the way that you make those, the reason that you choose one thing over another out of all the things you could have decided to do that day are because it's consistent with your strategy and it moves you down the road. And evidence shows both in sports and games, but also in business, that when your decisions are divided by strategies, as opposed to just being sort of random, that you have a lot better chance of succeeding in achieving your goal. Some of you that maybe have had jobs already might have worked in organizations where it feels like every day you just come in, do what you do, fight the daily fires. Maybe it seems like one day you're told to focus on one thing, and the next day you focus on this, and one day this is the most important thing to us, and the next day, well, this is really the most important thing to us. And generally, that's a sign of an organization that's not really being run by goals and strategies. If they were, then you wouldn't see that sort of shifting around. What you would see is something more like, well, remember that our overall goal is this, and our strategy for getting there is this. Given this situation, today the right thing for you to do, consistent with our strategy, would be this. So that's what we're going to do today. And you wouldn't really see that what we're going to do to change a lot unless the situation changes. Generally speaking, we think in terms. We will today be talking about product and business strategies, and I want to help you understand that just a little bit. What we mean by that. When you're thinking about a strategy, you can be thinking about it in a different context, right? And so one might be for a product. A product is just a single thing that you sell. And so for that product, there are a limited number of choices of what you can do to compete. And assuming that your goal is to sell more of them or make profit and make more profit from selling them, there's only a limited number of things that you can do. A business sells lots of products, but we call it a business if it sells products that are all pretty similar. And so you could imagine, for example, a smartphone business. They don't just sell one smartphone; they sell different versions of their smartphones because different groups of customers, what we would call customer segments, may like different things in their smartphones, and yet they're all still smartphones. And so in that case, you can sort of mix and match product level strategies across the different products. And so you have to make the decision at the business level of what you're going to do. And then beyond businesses, then you have companies, and companies can actually have lots of businesses, or certainly more than one. So imagine a company that sells both smartphones and maybe cellular service and maybe TV service, like an AT&T as an example. Those are all different businesses, and while they may choose to bundle them, that sort of thing, they have different businesses. And so for now, we're not going to talk about it that level. We're just going to talk about the product and business level strategies. We're not going to talk about strategies that relate to how do you combine different businesses. We'll get to that a little bit later in the semester. The other context that you have to keep track of with products is over time, your situation for a product can change. And so products tend to have a life cycle. They start out when they are first introduced and there's not anything like them. And over time, they sort of become obsolete and get replaced by a completely different kind of product, maybe that satisfies the same need they satisfy but does it better. And so you have to think in terms of that. At the product strategy level, just for a single product, there's really two strategies. The first is what we call low cost leadership. Low cost leadership means that you put yourself in a position to have the lowest production cost of all your competitors. So again, it's cost that you're really managing. Okay. Now, if I have the lowest cost, what that means is that at any price that anybody else can afford to sell their product, I'll make more profit than them. And so I can either choose to sell at the same price as, say, the lowest price competitor, and we'll each get our share of the sales, but I'll make a bigger profit than them. So I still win because I make more profit than them. Or I could choose to undercut their price. So let's just say that there's a product out there and you and somebody else are selling it for $10. And for them, it costs them $5 to make it, and for you, it costs you $3 to make it. Okay, and so they're making $5 on the product, you're making $7. So you're making an extra $2. You're completely happy to sell the same number of units as they are, but make an extra $2 on it, throughout the time. Or you could say, you know what, I'm going to sell my product for $9. Well, now you're selling at $9, they're selling at $10. You're going to sell more product than they are, at least to people who care about price. And at $9, you're going to make $6 profit. They're at $10. They're only going to make $5 profit selling at $10. So they're going to both sell less product and make less money at it. Now, they could choose to chase you down to $9, but if they do that, then you'll go to $8. And then they'll have to chase you down to that, and then you'll go to $7, and they'll have to chase you down to that. And at some point, that sort of price war will chase the price down so low they can't afford to sell it at $5 all the time because they'll make absolutely no money. But you could sell it at $5 and still make $2 profit. So a lot of times, once you achieve that advantage, a competitor will just simply no longer try to stay with you on price. And they'll give up their market share. Now, one of the implications of keeping low cost is often that means that you cannot maintain the highest quality. You need to maintain a similar quality to the other people in the market, but you cannot afford to just go out there and spend money on being the best, because quality costs money. The materials, the workmanship, the research and development, the marketing, all those things cost money. Second strategy is really the quality or differentiation strategy. I like to think in terms of quality. I like this better. It's either better made, or it's got better features, or it's more usable, or whatever else. Technically, that's called differentiation. The idea behind that term is that your product is noticeably different from other products in a good way. So you've done something so that you really stand out. So on the price end, all of our products sort of look the same, but mine's cheaper. On the differentiation end, they don't all look the same. Mine's a noticeably different and better product than theirs. In order to always be differentiated as a quality provider above and beyond everybody else, you have to keep not only adding the features, having the features that other competitors have, but other features they don't. So you have to spend a lot of time in R&D, materials, customer research, workmanship, marketing, sales, all those sorts of things you're going to have to spend money in. So while you want to stay in the top two in whatever characteristics customers consider for your product as quality characteristics, and ideally you want to be number one in some of those, you generally can't also then be the lowest cost because you got to spend more money than other people in order to do that. So you're going to have to charge a higher price in order to maintain your margins. When you go up to the business, so you stop just talking about a single product and you talk about, oh, we sell several cell phones. You can think of your business, your products as either falling into quality segments or price segments. Quality segments are segments where the customer is less concerned about price, but they want good features and quality, and they'll pay extra to get that. Price segments are segments where the customers are basically saying, I don't really need all of those features and that quality, but I do need the price to be affordable. And in any market, there's usually some customers in each of those, and it's your job to figure out which is which. And so in that situation, there are just a handful of strategies that folks think of. There is a broad cost leadership strategy. And what that says is that I am always going to be most focused on competing on price and cost. And that will clearly work well in my price segments where customers really care about that, and therefore I'll sell more than everybody else. In the quality segment, not all customers really care so much about price, but some of them do. And so I may have to take a smaller market share in that segment, but there will still be some sales there. I could also be a broad differentiator, and so it's just the opposite. I will really do well in the quality segments because I want to stand out on quality. Won't do quite as well in the price segments because I'm going to have to be more expensive than everybody else. But there will be some small portion in the price segment that will say, well, I'll pay a little bit more just to get that little bit more quality. Now, the thing about these two strategies is that what they basically say is the company just wants to be good at one thing. They want to either be good at managing price or producing quality. And they want to use that across all of their products. And so that's, the advantage of that is that you don't have to learn how to do both, number one, so you can just be known for that. And you're not really giving up your spot in each of those segments. There's two alternative versions of this where rather than being broad, you're being niche. And so when you're niche, you sell into the segment that you want to be good at, and you just don't have products in the other segment. So a niche cost leader would only have products that they sell to the price segment, and they'd have no products for the quality segment. A niche differentiator would have products they sell into the quality segment and just wouldn't sell into the price segment. And again, that's sort of consistent with we have one thing we do well. This is just the decision that says, since I do it well and it's successful in one segment, I'll just focus on that and I won't even mess with the other segment. There is another alternative called the focus strategy, where your company needs to learn how to both do quality and price well. Now, not necessarily on the same product. We're not saying figure out how to make each product both the best quality and the lowest cost. We're saying for segments that care about quality, have products where you're the best quality. For segments that care about price, have another set of products that are really cost effective, and so you can compete on price. The challenge is that means that your managers need to run the business a little bit differently. You can't have the very top of the organization telling everybody you have to be the best quality or you have to be the best price. You have to break the business into pieces and have a quality manager and a price manager. There may be other combinations or types of strategies. I'd be happy to hear from you guys on that. But generally, this is sort of we think of this as a somewhat exhaustive list. About the only thing we haven't put in there, aside from something that's completely unrelated to quality or price, is something that says Well, just don't do anything in either market. And of course, that's not a strategy, that's shutting down. Um, Now, for any particular product, you also have this life cycle issue. So we think in terms of the life cycle as being the product introduction, its growth stage, its maturity stage, its decline stage. How do you know which stage you're in? Well, in the introductory stage, think of that as you may be the only product out there, or maybe you and one other. You guys have just figured this out. Um, you know, the market barely even knows who you are. It's really just the first, the sort of the early adopters of products that are out there that are aware of you and trying you out. And so competition's pretty low. You're really spending all your money on being this new product and figuring out what that means. And so you're most focused on differentiating yourself from the other guys, and sort of figuring out what is it that customers in this new product market really like, and do they like different things. Um, and then the product will start to catch on with more of the masses, but it'll still be sort of new to them. Growth will be very high. There'll be more products entering the market to respond to that growth. Competition will increase. And we do still have to try and stay ahead of everybody, or at least up with everybody. We don't want to lose our first mover advantage in the market. But quite frankly, we also need to make sure that we're setting ourselves apart from other people. So we start to focus more on telling why we're the better or the different product, why our features you should like better than theirs. And so we're really about stimulating demand for our product instead of other people's product. Whereas in the growth intro stage, whether it's us or the other guys, anybody that's just letting customers know that, hey, there's this new kind of product out there, you should try one. That's sort of in the intro stage. And this one, you really want to stimulate demand for your product. Okay. At the maturity stage, imagine that there are enough companies and different kinds of products out there that as a buyer or as a customer, you can get pretty much any combination you want, within reason. Reason being technically possible. So there's less opportunity for somebody to come up with something new that really sets them apart from everybody else, because all of the combinations have sort of been explored. And in that situation, you got lots of products, lots of competition. It probably does not make as much sense to be spending money on trying to figure out how to set yourself apart in terms of features anymore, because there just aren't very many of them. And so what you do is that you start shifting and thinking about how can we, now that the products have become a little bit more of a commodity, how can we start focusing more on getting our costs low? So we work on improving our processes, getting our production and our sourcing of products and so forth right, and we really start focusing on our cost. Now, if I am a quality product, I'm at the quality end of the list. I don't just give up and say I no more want to be at that stage, but I need to be the lower priced quality product rather than the higher priced quality product. And so I have to start focusing on that. So from a overall strategy perspective, you're probably thinking less about growing market share and more about defending your market share, and maybe doing enough in terms of your product to keep on being able to sell it for as many years as possible. A lot of times this is considered sort of the cash cow stage. Um, you don't have to make nearly as many investments in the features. You get to start driving down cost. Price may or may not drop with that. We'll see. But generally, this is a time where you're making reasonable profits, and you don't have to do a lot to cut prices, and so you sort of milk the product. Then you go to the decline stage. In the decline stage, imagine the old flip phones that weren't smartphones, and that they're at that stage where now something new, smartphones, have come out. And so not nearly as many people are buying the old flip phones because when their phone wears out or when they go buy a new phone for whatever reason, a certain portion of them start buying a different product. And so, in that sense, really, you're in a decline stage. The overall sales for everybody in your market, not just you, is going down. Growth is negative. A lot of companies just start, canceling their product lines and maybe shifting their resources elsewhere. The competition's changing because it's no longer about losing market share to people making the same kinds of products I am. I'm losing market share to a completely different kind of product. And so that's where we really start thinking about, look, let's just, you know, ride this thing out. We're not going to put a lot of money into R&D. We're not going to put a lot of money into lowering cost. We're going to manage the costs that we have, and we're either going to ride this thing out so we could consolidate, maintain, we could harvest, or exit. Those are all basically, well, these last ones are really about, the exit is about just shutting down. These others are really about just getting the most money out of it over the period. And so, from a product standpoint, a product goes through all those stages, and as you go through those stages, you may have started out as a differentiator, and you may wind up as a low cost leader in the same product over however many years, simply because the market has changed. That's all we got on that. I hope that's useful.